My sister forbade me from her wedding, saying her fiancé has feelings for me. Now, hi everyone, I'm Michelle, and this story is still unfolding in ways I never could have imagined. Can you imagine being banned from your own sister's wedding? Not for some epic fight, but because she genuinely believed her fiancé had feelings for you? And then the absolute shocker. He refused to marry her because I wasn't there. My older sister, Emily, and her fiancé, Jonathan, seemed like the perfect couple. Years together, everyone thought they were soulmates. But things took a bizarre turn. A turn that involved me, their wedding, and a whole lot of unspoken family history. You see, I've never been close to my parents or Emily. Once I left for college, I just drifted. No big drama, no explosion, just a quiet separation. I'd spend holidays with my grandparents or travel, anything to avoid the uncomfortable atmosphere back home. It felt like I spoke a different language in their world. They never understood me, and to be brutally honest, they never even tried. Growing up, they'd bond over their shared interests, and when I tried to share mine, I'd get polite nods. Then the conversation would immediately swing back to them. So, eventually, I just stopped trying. What truly stung, though, was their complete lack of effort to reach out as I pulled away. It felt like they were relieved, even happy, to see me go. That hurt. Deeply. You'd think family would notice when one of their own starts fading, but they didn't seem to care. It just confirmed what I already suspected. I didn't belong. Eventually, I only showed up for big events, birthdays, holidays. Even then, I felt like a stranger, a polite visitor. No real connection, no warmth. And Emily? We never had that close sister bond you often hear about. She was always the golden child, the perfect daughter, slotting seamlessly into my parents' vision. I was the black sheep, the odd one out. They weren't overtly cruel, but their subtle digs, those seemingly innocent remarks that cut deep, they showed their true colors. I learned it was simply easier to avoid them. Why put myself in a place where I constantly felt out of place and unseen? Then came last year's Christmas dinner. Jonathan joined us, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel completely invisible. My family always made me feel like an outsider, a guest in my own home. But Jonathan? He was different. He actually treated me like a person, not the weird black sheep. He was kind of engaging, just normal. I didn't think much of it at the time. It was just basic politeness, right? But Emily saw it differently. Very differently. We weren't having some deep, private conversation, just chatting about travel, school, funny work stories. Everyday stuff. Yet, Emily's demeanor shifted immediately. I tried to ignore her icy stares across the dinner table, but later that night, she pulled me aside. Her words still echo in my mind. I know what you're doing. You're trying to take my boyfriend. You've always been envious of me. I was utterly stunned. Steal her man? Where on earth did that even come from? I laughed, tried to tell her she was being ridiculous, but she wouldn't let it go. She insisted I was being too nice to Jonathan, and that he was acting strangely around me. It was such a wild, unhinged accusation. I didn't even know how to respond. Emily always needed to be the center of attention, the perfect golden child. My parents adored her. I understood her need for validation, but to accuse me of trying to snatch her fiancé? That was a new low even for her. As usual, I tried to brush it off, assuming it was just insecurity or misplaced worry on her part. We weren't close, so why would I care about her drama anyway? After that night, things got truly strange. Emily, who was never exactly warm to begin with, now actively avoided me. If I tried to speak to her, I'd get one-word answers or a look that said, "Don't bother me." At family gatherings, she'd glue herself to Jonathan's side, almost like she was physically staking her claim. It was absurd. Jonathan, though, remained oblivious, or at least he pretended to be. He was always courteous, friendly, and just normal around me. What truly infuriated me was how easily my parents seemed to fall in line with Emily's narrative. There were subtle cues everywhere. My mother would give me these strange, knowing looks whenever Emily and Jonathan were around. My dad, usually indifferent, suddenly started lecturing about the importance of family connections. It was all so passive-aggressive, so dismissive of my own feelings. My anger simmered. Why would I, someone who avoided family drama at all costs and barely spoke to Emily outside of forced gatherings, suddenly develop an interest in her fiancé? It made no sense. A few months later, my grandparents dropped a bombshell. Emily was engaged. Engaged. And I, her own sister, hadn't even been told. Finding out from them felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't that I expected a glitter-filled, personalized invitation, but still. A part of me, a tiny, foolish part, had held on to hope that despite everything, she'd still see me as family, as someone who deserved to be informed of such a huge life event. We're sisters, after all, right? But clearly, that was too much to ask. I kept quiet about hearing the news, convincing myself she might have forgotten, or was just swamped with planning. Days turned into weeks, then months. Crickets. Then, finally, an unexpected call from Emily. I was honestly taken aback. We hadn't actually spoken since that ridiculous Christmas accusation. I answered, trying to sound casual, as if my own sister hadn't practically erased me from her life. After a few awkward minutes of small talk, she dropped it. I'm not inviting you to the wedding. Silence. I tried to process it. Even though I wasn't particularly thrilled to go, hearing her say it out loud, it still stung. When I asked why, her explanation was beyond belief. I don't want you there because Jonathan has feelings for you. It'll just be uncomfortable. I burst out laughing. Laughed out loud. The sheer audacity. Jonathan had no feelings for me. And even if he did, I wasn't about to stand up during the ceremony and declare my undying love. It was so completely insane, I didn't even bother arguing. I just said, have a great wedding. Happy marriage, and hung up. At that moment, I realized it truly didn't matter if I was part of her special day. I didn't need that kind of manufactured chaos in my life. Emily and I were living in different universes, and I'd long accepted it. Still, I needed to vent, to get some outside perspective. Was I the only one who thought this whole situation was utterly bonkers? Had anyone else ever dealt with something like this? I desperately needed some guidance. By the way, if you're still with me on this wild ride, and trust me, it only gets wilder, please hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next, and believe me, more unbelievable stories are coming. The next update is where things truly exploded. Yesterday was utter chaos, and somehow I was pulled right into the center of it. I was just having a normal Thursday night, curled up with my laptop, when my phone started blowing up. I tried to ignore it at first. I'd gotten pretty good at that lately. But in less than 10 minutes, I had 7 missed calls from my dad. 7. My dad never calls more than once. He assumes you're busy and tries again later. So 7 calls? That was a red flag. When I finally answered, his voice was trembling, desperate, like someone I'd never heard before. Michelle, you have to come here now, he repeated. When I asked what was wrong, he just kept saying, it's about Jonathan and Emily. Just come, please. His desperation was alarming, but then I thought, seriously? After all the drama, the accusations, the outright ban from the wedding, they expected me to just drop everything and rush to their rescue? I told him exactly that. Dad, remember? I'm not attending this wedding. Emily made that crystal clear. Michelle, please, he pleaded. Jonathan won't go through with the wedding without you there. That stopped me cold. What? Before I could even process that bombshell, my mom called. She was truly sobbing. Your sister needs you, she kept repeating, as if she'd completely forgotten how they'd all treated me for months. Hearing her suddenly preach about sisterly love and family loyalty, when they had been perfectly fine without me until things went wrong, was surreal. Then Emily called, her voice a barely comprehensible mess. Jonathan had apparently shown up to the rehearsal dinner and immediately asked where I was. When Emily told him I wasn't invited, he didn't explode in rage. No, it was worse. He just lost it in a subdued, deeply disappointed way. In front of their friends, the wedding party, both families, he declared that he couldn't marry someone who would treat their own sister like that. Emily sobbed, recounting his words. He said after watching how you all treated Michelle, he couldn't be part of a family that would reject someone that way. He saw how Mom and Dad were, too. He didn't want to be around such poisonous behavior. Honestly, a huge part of me felt utterly validated. Finally, someone had seen it. Someone had witnessed the years of subtle cruelty, of being the outsider, and had called it out for what it was. It was unacceptable. But Emily wasn't finished. Between sobs, she started outlining this elaborate plan for me to come. Explain it was all a big misunderstanding, that I had decided not to attend the wedding, that it was all my idea. We can fix this. Just come and tell Jonathan you never intended to go. Tell him you weren't left out, Michelle, please. I can't lose him. The sheer audacity took my breath away. After months of making me out to be a man-stealing villain, after explicitly telling me I was unwelcome because her fiancé might be attracted to me, she now wanted me to lie, to save her relationship. after making me feel like absolute trash in my own family. I let her cry for a long, silent moment on the other end of the line. Then, as calmly as I could, I said, "I won't lie for you, Emily. You're dealing with the consequences of your choices now, of ignoring me, of treating me like I didn't exist. It's not my job to fix this." "But he'll listen to you," she shrieked. "He believes in you," I responded. "Maybe he trusts me because I've never given him a reason not to. Maybe he doubts your true self because of how he's seen you treat me. Either way," I continued, "I won't be attending, and I won't tell lies to save your reputation." She was still wailing as I hung up. I then made myself a cup of tea, switched off my phone completely, and sat down to truly absorb what had just transpired. Over the next few hours, my phone kept lighting up. Voicemails from my parents, missed calls from Emily's friends, texts from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. The entire family seemed to be in a frantic scramble to coerce me into cleaning up Emily's mess. But for the first time in my life, I felt utterly certain avoiding them was the right thing to do. Jonathan, alone, had seen through their charade, not because of anything I'd said or done, but because of how they had treated me. He saw it with his own eyes. And honestly, that felt like the most profound validation I could have ever hoped for. Last night, I went to bed without my phone, and I slept better than I had in months. For once, let them deal with the consequences of their own behavior. I am done cleaning up other people's messes and being the family scapegoat. This morning, my grandparents, the only family I still connect with, told me Jonathan isn't returning anyone's calls. He's informed his own family that the wedding is off for good. My parents are in damage control mode, Emily is inconsolable, and I'm just here. Finally, content with my choice to keep my distance. All your comments on my previous post affirming my decision? You were right. Sometimes, it's best to step back and let others face the fallout of their own actions. Many of you asked about my early life, about why I became so estranged from my family. It's a heavy story, one I didn't dive into initially, but given everything that's happened, now feels like the right time. The truth is, I suffer from social anxiety. As a child, I always felt there was something inherently wrong with me, but I couldn't articulate it. My parents, however, were traditionalists. They saw mental health conditions as mere excuses. "You need to toughen up," they'd say, or "you're just being dramatic." If I showed any signs of anxiety, any hint of a panic attack, they'd label me weak or lazy, as if it was a choice. Looking back, the warning signs were everywhere. I remember being 15, facing a huge English presentation. The thought of standing in front of 30 students was pure torture. The night before, I couldn't sleep. The morning of, I felt physically ill. I begged my parents to let me stay home. My father's response? "Your nervousness won't stop the world. Stop making such a big deal out of everything." I ended up having a severe panic attack right there in front of the class. My voice broke. Some kids actually laughed. My hands shook so violently I couldn't hold my notes. The room spun, but I felt trapped. And my mother? Instead of comfort, her only remark was, "See? You got through it. All that drama for nothing." Emily, the perfect sister, only made it worse. She was student body president, debate team captain. Everything my anxiety prevented me from being. When her friends came over, I'd hear them whisper about the weird sister who never leaves her room. I even overheard Emily tell her friends once, "Yeah, she's just antisocial. Thinks she's too good for everyone." My life finally changed in college. That first semester was a complete meltdown. Away from home, navigating new social circles, trying to manage my anxiety while taking classes. It all became too much. I remember sitting in my dorm room, gasping for air, truly feeling like I was dying. My roommate, bless her heart, saw something was deeply wrong and practically dragged me to the college counseling center. There, I met Dr. Martinez. She was the first person who ever truly listened to me. She didn't tell me to toughen up or minimize my feelings. Instead, she helped me understand. After a few sessions, she suggested seeing a psychiatrist for a proper diagnosis. When I finally received that diagnosis, social anxiety disorder, it was like giving the monster I'd been battling my whole life a name. It wasn't attention-seeking or being dramatic, as my family had always insisted. It was a real, legitimate condition. And most importantly, it was treatable. Therapy opened my eyes. Dr. Martinez taught me that my family's actions weren't just unsupportive. They were actively damaging. She helped me learn to set boundaries, advocate for myself, and recognize toxic behavior. That's when I consciously began to distance myself. What truly hurts, though, is how my parents completely rejected my diagnosis. When I tried to explain it, my mother actually said, "These doctors are just trying to make money by labeling everything a disease." Emily, with an eye roll, added, "You're just using big words to justify your antisocial behavior." Last Thanksgiving, before all this wedding chaos, I made one final attempt. I'd prepared an entire speech about social anxiety, complete with research and statistics. My dad interrupted me mid-sentence. "Michelle, when are you going to stop making excuses and start living in the real world?" That was it. I finally realized they would never change. They would never try to understand. Their perception of me, the difficult kid, the dramatic one, the problem, was set in stone. And you know what? Realizing that was strangely liberating. It made it easier to stop seeking their understanding, their acceptance. In hindsight, I can see how this deeply rooted dynamic fed directly into the wedding scenario. My parents' quick acceptance of Emily's narrative without question, Emily's immediate jump to believing I was stealing her fiancé. It all stemmed from their long-held belief that I'm the one who causes trouble and needs to be managed. But Jonathan saw through it. He observed how they treated me, how they minimized my emotions, how they used me as a scapegoat for everything. And he called it out for what it was, poisonous conduct. Unlike everyone else in their social circle, he didn't just accept their version of reality. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this wedding drama wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of years of family dynamics where I was constantly painted as the bad guy, the problem child, and the one who needed fixing. Maybe that's why Jonathan's choice feels so righteous to me. Someone else, finally, saw what I'd been enduring for years. Yes, that's the backstory many of you asked for. And it clarifies exactly why I'm not in any rush to make repairs right now. I've spent far too many years trying to change how my family sees me, to earn their understanding and acceptance. I've come to realize that accepting some people, even family, will never understand or accept you, is sometimes the healthiest thing you can do. A month has now passed since the wedding imploded, and I have one final, dramatic update to share. What started as a family wedding drama has morphed into something I never, ever could have predicted, and it's finally, truly finished. Emily, understandably, lost everything when her wedding was called off. But instead of reflecting, she got my new phone number, somehow, and shared it with everyone she knew. I was suddenly bombarded with hundreds of hateful comments from strangers, her acquaintances, and distant family. Guilt-tripping, intimidation, outright threats. And then came the vandalism. Classic Emily, who used to do this to girls she hated in high school. First, it was eggs on my car. When that didn't get the reaction she wanted, she escalated. I can't even count the times I found my mailbox ruined, my car vandalized, or offensive notes plastered on my apartment door. The final straw? She slashed all 4 of my car tires and left a chilling, threatening note in her unmistakable handwriting. My parents, through all of this, consciously chose to ignore Emily's actions. Girls will be girls, or you need to be more understanding of your sister's pain, was their go-to response for everything. They even dismissed security camera footage of her attempting to break into my apartment as Emily, just wanting to talk. But here's where this incredible community truly saved me. Many of you suggested I install security cameras, document everything. And I did. I contacted an attorney, and he confirmed. This wasn't just family drama. This was criminal harassment and vandalism. With witness accounts, video evidence, photos, and hundreds of threatening messages, we built an ironclad case. Emily finally understood she'd gone too far when my lawyer served her with our evidence and a cease and desist notice. That security footage of her attempted break-in? That was especially damning. Through her own attorney, she tried to bargain, drop everything, and she'd cover the damages. I refused. This wasn't about money. This was about accountability. About consequences. The court case moved swiftly, decisively. Emily was charged with attempted breaking and entering, criminal harassment, and vandalism. The judge, considering the deliberate nature of her conduct and the escalating evidence, was unsparing. She received a permanent restraining order, mandatory therapy, and a 1-year suspended sentence. My parents' reaction to the verdict? Predictable. They accused me of being callous for destroying your sister's life over a few pranks. Pranks. Even after I detailed how Emily had repeatedly harassed me, damaged my property, and tried to break into my home, they told me to just move away if I felt unsafe. I knew then I would never speak to them again. The civil litigation also settled quickly, out of court. Emily had to pay for all the damage she caused, plus damages for my emotional distress and lost wages. Her social media campaign had cost me several freelancing jobs, and that was factored in too. But most significantly, the settlement included a non-communication clause, legally barring my parents from acting as middlemen or flying monkeys ever again. My lawyer confirmed that Emily and my parents' concerns about their reputations played a huge role in the speedy settlement. It seems their fear of what their country club friends would think vastly outweighed any concern for doing the right thing. Shocking, I know. Since then, I've moved. New apartment, secure building, constant surveillance. My social media accounts are gone, my contact info completely updated. My clients have been incredibly understanding. One who heard my story and was impressed by how I handled it even offered me a job. But the most unexpected, profound result of all of this? For the first time in my life, I feel truly liberated. The crushing weight of my family's expectations, their constant criticisms, they're gone. I'm no longer the scapegoat, the dramatic child, the problem to be managed. I am just Michelle, building my own life, on my own terms. This community, you all actually changed my life. Your recommendations for documentation, for security measures, were absolutely crucial in court. When I doubted myself, your encouraging comments kept me going, and your stories of similar situations made me realize I wasn't alone. Please remember this. Sharing DNA does not give anyone the right to mistreat you. If you're dealing with toxic family members, sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. Let them deal with the fallout of their own actions. It's not about getting even. It's about setting boundaries and demanding respect. My social anxiety? It's improving with therapy. A lot of it, it turns out, was tied directly to the constant criticism and gaslighting I endured as a child. Who knew removing poisonous individuals could be such an effective treatment? This chapter of my life is genuinely closed. I'm focusing on my education, my career, and building a new network of chosen family. To everyone who supported me and followed my story, thank you. You gave me the courage to leave and the strength to advocate for myself. They say living well is the best revenge. I'd add that the best closure is knowing you finally, truly advocated for yourself. I'm done being used, done being a victim or a scapegoat. I've taken control, and I'm never looking back. So tell me, after hearing all of this, what would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had to draw such a hard line with your own family? I really want to know what you think in the comments below.